Now, I want to start this video off by asking y'all just a couple of questions. Just a couple of quick questions. How many movies do you think that Marvel released from 2010 up until now? From 2010, Marvel has released 47 movies, and that's just from 2010 up until now. And now I know that, Marvel was kind of in their superhero renaissance and everything like that, but comparing that to pre-2010, I want you to guess how many movies that Marvel released pre-2010. Marvel only released 21 movies pre-2010. Pre-2010. Now let's just compare that to DC real quick. Let's just let's compare both of them so that we could be fair about this. I want you to guess how many movies from 2010 up until 2023 that DC has released. Just guess. Just take a wild guess. 19. DC has only released 19 movies since 2010 up until now. 19. The studio that is, responsible for superheroes like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the Justice League, all that, has only released 19 movies in the past 13 years. Now, I know you're wondering how many have they released before 2010, especially since, DC's been around for forever, just like Marvel has. 20. DC only released 20 movies pre-2010. And I know you're wondering, well, who was making movies first? Maybe, DC just a little bit more selective. DC's first movie came out in 1951 with Superman and the Mole Man. You heard me right. DC has been releasing movies since the 1950s, and yet they haven't even released 20 movies in the past 13 years. Marvel's first credited movie coming out in 1986. DC had a 30-year head start on Marvel in releasing movies. Yet they've only released 19 movies in the past 13 years. Now, another interesting statistic that, I found out when doing research for this video was I wanted to know, because I'm not that old. I'm only 23. But back in my youth, back in my younger days, we were lucky if we got, around 2 superhero movies per year. Maybe 2. But at most, we got one every couple of years, it felt like. Every 1 or 2 or even 3 years, right? The most movies that Marvel has released in 1 year is 5. Marvel released 5 movies in 2021. In that 1 year, Marvel released Black Widow, Spider-Man No Way Home, Venom Let There Be Carnage, Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, and The Eternal, all in the same year. So to say that audiences, including myself, were way past the point of being burnt out at this point in time is an understatement. And you would think that this would be a one-time thing, but no, this was the second time that Marvel had released 5 superhero movies within 1 year. A similar thing happened in 2018 where Marvel released Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Deadpool 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and the first Venom movie, all within the same year. Now just think about that for a second. We had 5 superhero movies in the same year, not spread out across multiple years or anything like that, in the same year. And we all remember how much of a game changer Infinity War and Endgame was. But we got 4 other superhero movies in the same year that Infinity War was released. Black Panther, Deadpool 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Venom. You would think that with a movie of the caliber, like the weight that Infinity War had on the Marvel franchise and the Marvel universes, you would think that just releasing that for 2018, that one movie would have been enough. You could have just released Infinity War for that year and everybody would have been fine with it. We didn't need 4 other superhero movies within the same year. But this is current day Marvel. They're not gonna give us a break. We haven't gotten a break from superhero movies in I don't know how long. It seems like us only getting 2 superhero movies in a year, it seems like something's wrong. We've been so conditioned to getting 3 and 4 superhero movies per year that when we only get 2 superhero movies, we all just assume that, something went wrong, or something went wrong at the studio, or something went wrong in production. I gotta find a new actor to play the new role and things like that. And it's just that we've been so burnt out of superhero movies for so long that people just started not to care. Because for everybody that was, really hyped for all these superhero movies, the main ones people were excited for was the Avengers series, which was the whole reason for Marvel pumping out, all of these origin stories and all of these superhero sequels and everything like that. because they're trying to build up their multiverse. They're trying to build up their multiverse and their universes and all their timelines and shit like that. But at the cost of burning out your audience by the time that Endgame came out, which is where everything started to fall apart for Marvel. In 2019, when Marvel released Endgame, that should have been it. Avengers Endgame came out in 2019, and that should have been it for Marvel for a couple of years. For at least a good 2 to 3 years, that should have been it for Marvel. We didn't need 20 more superhero movies like right after Endgame. We didn't. Because the entire lead up to Endgame was because every other movie that Marvel had released was all leading up to Endgame for, the Avengers. Everybody was waiting on Avengers Endgame. Everything was leading up to Endgame. So when Endgame comes out, you think that this is Marvel's, big finale, or at least big finale for a couple of years. You think that, like, okay, Endgame came out, everything with the Avengers storyline has been resolved and shit like that. You're thinking like, okay, maybe we could get a break. Nah, we in fact got no break. And it seemed like after Endgame came out, it seemed like Marvel kept making more and more movies quicker than they ever did before. Because with Endgame making $1 billion like a fucking day, it seemed like Marvel just started chugging out these movies left and fucking right. I mean, like back to back to back to back. Every other day, every other week, we were getting a new superhero movie trailer just out the fucking blue. But everybody was burnt out from Endgame. And I feel like this was the biggest downfall that Marvel had, because after Endgame, everybody's excited, everybody's talking about it, but then they just keep piling on and piling on and piling on and piling on. New Disney Plus series for superheroes, new movies, new trailers, new this, new that, new everything. And it was the worst decision that they could have ever made. It burnt out the audience, it burnt out the critics. Everybody was just burnt out of Marvel. Nobody wanted any more Marvel after that, except for the really, really hardcore, Marvel fans. But the majority consensus was, we're burnt out, can you just stop? The only thing that stopped Marvel from making more movies the year after that was the pandemic. If that had not happened, we probably would have gotten 4 movies in 2020. Probably would have gotten 5 again. They probably would have made 5 more that year. But that was the only thing that made Marvel slow down with movies that year. That was the only thing that was stopping them from making movies that year. And since Marvel didn't take a break, now we're at the point to where whenever there's a new superhero trailer, everybody just rolls their fucking eye. Every time you see the Marvel logo pop up in a trailer, everybody rolls their eyes because they just don't care anymore. People don't care about superhero movies anymore. And majority of this is Marvel's fault. But like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm not solely putting the blame on Marvel. DC has some fault in this too. But the fact that Marvel has released, 40 something movies in the past decade, and DC has barely released 20 movies, you kind of have to put more of the blame on Marvel, because they've almost released 50 something movies in the past decade plus. And after Endgame, you would think that they would give themselves and the public a break. But no, they didn't care. They wanted to ride the wave of superheroes for as long as they could, and now nobody cares. So now when a new Marvel movie comes out and people don't care, people are like, but I thought you guys liked superheroes. I thought y'all loved it. It's like, yeah, but we have too many of them. There's too many superhero movies coming out at one time. Too much of a good thing is always a bad thing. Too many superheroes is just as bad as not enough superheroes. Now, I'm not saying release a new superhero movie once every 20 fucking years or something, but at least give us a good 2 to 3 year break in between so that we really could enjoy the movie that you just released, or at least have a limit of movie releases to at least 2, because 3, 4, and 5 is pushing it. It's really fucking pushing it. And it's not even like after 2021, when they released 5 movies for the second time, it's not even like they started out 2022 great anyways. Starting out 2022, they released Morbius, and we all hated Morbius. Nobody wanted Morbius. Nobody needed Morbius. Nobody needed Morbius. And if anything was the downfall of how we look at superhero movies, it was Morbius. Because what the fuck was that? Like, what the actual fuck was Morbius? Like, who greenlit that? And it's like it just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's not getting any better. We're still getting 3 to 4 superhero movies per year. And it doesn't seem like they're slowing down anytime soon. And it's leaving no room for us to like breathe and really enjoy these movies when we actually want to go see them. And every time a new superhero movie comes out, it could be for a superhero that we've been wanting to have a live action movie for the longest time. But when we see the trailer, it's just like, oh shit, another superhero movie. I guess it's like we're not given enough time to properly enjoy these movies. And Marvel has to understand that too much of a good thing makes us hate it. Cause it could be like the best superhero movie we've had in years, but we can't really properly enjoy it because we know you're just gonna release 4 other mid ones and 2 of them might be just straight up terrible. And nobody can really properly be excited for superhero movies anymore because we're burnt out. It's just too much. And I really need them to recognize this because this just isn't it. Like it doesn't provide anybody it doesn't provide any proper excitement anymore. Like the last time I was really excited to go see a superhero movie was when I went to go see the first Black Panther. That was it. And I watched Endgame and I haven't been really excited in like forever. Like the last time that I was like really fiending to go see a superhero movie was the first Avengers movie. And that was forever ago. That was like 30 superhero movies ago. And like it just kept going and going and going and going. Hell, for me, for somebody who's not really like a hardcore like superhero fan, it became impossible to keep up. Cause it seemed like every other week you had to go to the movies to see the new superhero movie. And they all had something to do with the timeline. So if you missed it and skipped one movie, when you go see the other one, you were confused. So you couldn't even really miss them. It was back to back to back to back to back. And we just really haven't had a break. Just be like, okay, these were superhero movies released this year. We know the next ones are gonna be released in a couple of years. We got time to really like digest them and really understand what's going on. But Marvel just said, nah, y'all gonna watch 4 superhero movies this year. Next year, y'all might get 6. Yeah, we might get 6 superhero movies in 1 year. Shit, we might get 7. Who fucking knows? But all I need Marvel to do is just pump the brakes. Pump the brakes for like a good 2 to 3, hell, maybe 4 years. No superhero movie, no origin stories, no sequels, no trilogies, no nothing. Just take a break. We do not need any more Disney Plus series. Just for a couple of years. I'm not saying for a long time, but just for a couple of years. We do not need any more. Please, just stop. DC. Where do I even begin with DC? If I had to pick one word that would describe DC to me, don't get me wrong, if I had to pick between Marvel or DC, I've always been more of a DC fan at heart. I've always watched more of Batman and Superman and the Justice League and shit like that. I love the Justice League animated series. I loved all the older Batman animated series and shit like that. But this video is about live action DC. And if I had to describe live action DC in one word, it would be inconsistency. And if I had to pick another one, it would be disappointment. Now, my problems with DC are completely different from Marvel. Because unlike Marvel, DC hasn't necessarily burnt us out with releasing, 4 to 5 superhero movies per year or shit like that. DC doesn't release enough good superhero movies per decade, it fucking seems like. Because DC, like I said earlier, has only released 19 movies in the past decade and a half. Now, my first real exposure to DC was back in 2005 with Batman Begins. But trying to be a DC fan outside of Batman is really fucking difficult. Trying to be a DC fan of any other superhero, to be honest with you, is really fucking difficult. Because it seems like outside of Batman and the Man of Steel remake in 2013, I believe, with Henry Cavill, DC doesn't really know where to start. And it seems like we're constantly getting reboots and restarts of everything all the time. Like, I don't know how many Batmans we've had at this point. It's probably like maybe 10, maybe 12. I honestly don't know. I don't know how many Supermans we've had. Hell, some superheroes in DC haven't had movies at all, which I think is the main fucking crime. And let's not even bring up the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds. It doesn't exist. There is no war about Sing Sing. But DC just has been inconsistent and way too many disappointments for me to even say that DC has been good for like the past decade. Cause it seems like every time that DC has like a string of 1 or 2 good movies, they either stop making movies altogether and make like 10 animated movies in like 3 months, or the live action movies we do get feel rushed, or they just don't compete at all with anything that Marvel has done. Like, and I understand that, especially in the past couple of years, that them trying to even compete with Avengers, like Infinity War, Endgame, was just damn near impossible. But they could have at least tried. I really feel like DC could have at least tried. And a lot of times I don't even really feel like they try harder. And when they do try hard enough, they shoot themselves in the foot. Because, side little rant here, getting rid of Henry Cavill as Superman will go down as the dumbest decision that studio will ever fucking make. That nigga was literally Superman incarnate into the real fucking world. Like, it don't make sense to me why you got rid of him as Superman when he was literally the perfect Superman. I don't feel like replacing him was justified at all. It still don't make sense. Side ran over. Shit like that is what I mean when I say that they shoot themselves in the foot, and they don't even really give themselves a chance to compete with shit like that. One of the reasons why Marvel got so big in the first place is because they found people that played the character well and they stuck with them. There hasn't been, 8 different Iron Mans. There hasn't been 8 different Thors. There hasn't been 8 different Black Panthers. There hasn't been, 8 different Hulks. There's only been like a couple, but they've kept the same actors for the same roles for like the past 10, 12 years. Once the Avengers started, their roles were locked in. There was no changing of Thor or Iron Man or a reboot of, one of the origin stories and then magically they're just some other actor. They were locked into their roles so people could know the same face for the same character. When people think of Iron Man, they think about Robert Downey Jr. Like, that's who Iron Man is. When people think about Black Panther, they think about Chadwick Boseman. These superheroes have the same face and they're recognizable. They're not rebooting the same superheroes over and over and over again. Like Batman just in the 2000s, or just Batman in general over the past 10 years has been like 3 separate Batmans. It's been like 3 separate Batmans. And even when they find a person who can play the character well, they don't keep going with it. And I never understand why we just keep getting reboot after reboot after reboot after reboot. And even when they try to do the whole Justice League thing in I think it was 2015, maybe 2016, I don't really remember. It didn't feel like the Justice League. If you watch that movie, that does not feel like the Justice League. It felt like they just threw a couple of superheroes together and just said, go be the Justice League. Like, it didn't feel like a proper Justice League movie. Nothing about that movie felt like the Justice League. It felt like a Batman and Superman movie featuring Wonder Woman, The Flash, and Cyborg. Like, that didn't feel like the Justice League. And I don't know if this is just me, but when I think of the Justice League, I don't think of, Cyborg and The Flash and Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. I think of Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, Martian Man, like Green Lantern. That's the Justice League that I think of. But it's like half of the actual Justice League that I would want to see in a live action movie doesn't even have an origin story or a proper one. Because where's the Martian Man movie? Where's the proper Green Lantern movie? Like, half of those, where's the Canary movie? Like, half of these people don't even have live action movies, at all. They haven't even tried. And that's the thing that I don't understand with DC is they don't even try a lot of the time. Or at least it doesn't feel like. It feels like they're either too selective or they're not selective enough and don't even give it a try. And I get it, trying to find, the perfect person for a superhero is easier said than done. I understand that, but it's like what are we even doing at this point? What's the next plans coming up for DC that'll be consistent? I don't need the same inconsistent ass DC we've been getting for the past 13 years who've only released barely 20 movies. And to be honest with you, I really only remember 2 of them. The ones that I know off top that I enjoyed was Man of Steel and the Batman release with Robert Pattinson. Obviously, I like the Dark Knight series, but now we have a new Batman. So it's is the old Batman just gone now? Are we we sticking with Robert Pattinson? Are we gonna get a new Batman? Are we gonna get a new Superman? Like, I don't know. Hell, is Gail Gadot still gonna be Wonder Woman in 5 years? Probably not. And it's just like, I need them to be consistent because we're nowhere near a burnout with them because they don't release enough movies to even be burnt out. And just to mention the animated side of DC, it's almost like watching series and movies from two different companies. Like if you watched any of the Batman animated series, like Batman Beyond, Batman animated series, Justice League, or any of the animated movies, it seems like two separate companies make these movies. It does not feel like the same company makes these movies or series. It just doesn't feel the same. Like the attention to detail, the voice actors, the way that the characters act, their character traits, their characteristics, the way that they work together, the way that the characters fight the villains, hell, everything just feels like two separate companies. And I don't know if that's just because they don't have to deal with like, you know, real life actors or something like that, but I just don't understand how they could make such great animated series and great animated movies, but when it comes down to their real life movies, their IRL movies, their IRL shows, even like the Titan show, I wanted to give that show a try, but I just can't bring myself to it. I can't bring myself to it. But it's like, I do not know why they don't have the same energy for their animated shows and their animated movies for their IRL movies and IRL TV shows. Like, people are gonna remember your live action adaptations over the hundreds of animated shows and movies that you put out, it seems like, per year. People are gonna remember The Dark Knight over Batman Beyond 10 times over, because that's just how they work. It's a bigger budget, more people see it, and just more people remember live action movies than they do animated series. That's just the way that it works. But I just don't understand why we can't get that same attention to detail and things like that for the live action movies. I want the same consistency that we get in the animated movies and animated series like we do. I want that same effort put into the live action movies and the live action shows. I want the same effort because it just doesn't seem like we get the same effort. I don't even want to start on what the fuck they did to the Flash, because I don't know what they're doing to the Flash or what they did to the Flash, but it's not it. It's not. Whatever the fuck y'all have been trying to do with the Flash, stop it. If any hero needs to reboot, it's the Flash, because it's just not it. Like, whenever I would see the trailer, like I've been getting no excitement from the Flash trailers. I just haven't. Hell, the Blue Beetle movie, has anybody even seen it? Is it good? Like, I don't know, because it's just, and half of it is me being burnt out of superhero movies in general because of Marvel, but it's like, I don't even be wanting to go see these DC superhero movies half the time because I don't want to waste my time. I don't even be knowing if these DC movies are going to be good or if they're going to be even worth watching. Then I done wasted my money on a half-assed DC movie. It's just the inconsistencies, the constant reboots, the severe drought of anything other than a straight-to-DVD animated movie that, you know, unless you like follow DC accounts, shit like that, don't really hear about. So the people like me who kind of just like casually keep up with superheroes from time to time, we don't even really know that them shits are coming out. And it could be like the best animated movie they ever released, but we don't know they're coming out because, you know, we're casuals. And so I can stop ranting about DC to kind of like bring it together. Marvel and DC have both played a part in superhero movies not being cool anymore. Because if you compare like excitement for superhero movies and like, yeah, even the early 2010s and the late 2000s, it's just two completely different. It's just two like completely separate timelines, it feels like. Because the excitement that people would get from, you know, the Amazing Spider-Man or the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man series or the Incredible Hulk movies or, you know, the first couple of Iron Man movies and shit like that, or hell, even Blade back in the 90s, it's just the excitement levels are just two completely different timelines because we're not really allowed to really be excited and enjoy superhero movies anymore, because we know that if a superhero movie gets released in March, by December it'll be 4 or 5 more that have been released. So we can't even really properly enjoy this movie because we know that a month down the line we're gonna get 2 or 3 more superhero movie trailers. We're gonna get about 5 Disney Plus superhero show trailers, and we're gonna get like, you know, a bunch more in next year. So we can't even really properly enjoy the movies, because I don't know about y'all, but like if a movie series is starting out and they release part 1 like this year, I don't need part 2 and 3 in 2024 in the same year. I don't need both parts in the same year. Give me a couple years to like settle down and really get excited for, you know, the rest of the series. Let me miss the show first before you just bring it back. Don't bring back season 2 immediately. Let me miss it first. Let the hype build back up. I really don't think that Marvel or DC, for a matter of fact, is really letting hype build up. I don't even really remember the last time like people really were hyped for a DC movie, to be honest with you. Because it seems like for DC at least, we don't even know when we're getting the next movie for DC. It might be 5-8 years down the line. And I'm not saying be anything like Marvel, but I just need them to be consistent, because it doesn't seem like they want to be consistent. We don't see any consistency with these movies. Yeah, we don't know if they're gonna keep the same superhero because they keep doing reboots of everything. Hell, we're lucky that we get sequels or shit like Aquaman. We're lucky we're getting a sequel of Aquaman. I thought they would have tried to reboot that or something. I thought that would have been a reboot, but it's not apparently, which is great. But the consistency of DC worries me so much, and Marvel burning me out. I don't know if it burns y'all out, but it just seems like Marvel just can't stop releasing superhero movies. And it doesn't help that Marvel releases 4 superhero movies every year. It doesn't help that DC releases a superhero movie every 8 to fucking 10 years just to reboot it with a whole new actor and starting all the way over from scratch again. Because endings to movies like The Black Adam, where Henry Cavill is Superman, doesn't matter anymore because Henry Cavill isn't Superman. And hell, if we were gonna get a Black Adam vs Superman movie, we ain't getting that shit now because they're probably about to reboot Superman again. We're gonna get a Superman origin story movie again because we just can't seem to keep the same people, the same roles. Hell, with all the drama with The Rock with Black Adam, we're probably not even gonna get The Rock as Black Adam anymore. That might be another reboot that we're gonna get again. This is the same thing I've been saying before with DC. It's too much inconsistent shit. I just need them to be consistent. I need Marvel to slow down. I need DC to be consistent. Not even speed up, just be consistent. Consistency is the only thing that I'm asking for with DC. But to bring it back to kind of what I was saying beforehand, all of the points that I've brought up about both of these companies, both have ruined superhero movies for everybody. They've ruined it for casual fans, hardcore fans, people who read comic books, watch the animated movies and shows, and go to see the live action adaptations of all of them. It's just ruined it for everybody. Nobody gets excited for superhero movies anymore. Hell, half the time we're rolling our eyes just hoping that it's good. Hell, people aren't excited for the Captain Marvel. People weren't excited for the Blue Beetle movie. There just hasn't been real excitement for superhero movies in a long time. And I feel like both of the companies need to just go to the drawing board and figure it out, because the shit that they're doing now is not it. It's not it. And I need them to really just go to the drawing board, figure it out, so that we all can enjoy superhero movies like we used to. I need Marvel to slow the fuck down, pump the brakes, and I need DC to figure out what the fuck is gonna do. And I'm more pissed at DC because I love DC. I love the Justice League. I love Teen Titans. And I would love for those to get the live action adaptations and the representation that they deserve. I would love for the Teen Titans to actually get the recognition that they deserve. I would love for the Justice League to get the representation that they deserve. But DC, you need to get your shit together. Whatever it is, whether it's licensing or whatever, I need y'all to get your shit together. Because if you don't, you're gonna keep losing to Marvel, and people are gonna stop giving a fuck more than they already have about DC. Find people that are good for these superhero roles. Keep them. Don't bullshit them like you did Henry Cavill, and be consistent. That's all that I ask. I'm not asking for much. I just need y'all to be consistent. Marvel, take a break, take a nap, do something but make superhero movies. Let other movies come out. Because it seemed like the only movies that come out the past couple of years is fucking superhero movies and horror movies. Just stop. Don't release any more movies for the next 3 years and we'll be fine. We don't need Spider-Man 4, 5, 6. We don't need Deadpool 4, 5. Just stop. And we'll be alright. Please.